Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Kendra. How are you today? You look amazing.
I think ever since we met Shay Cunningham, I want to give her a shout out. We have been leaning into sort of this inner people of who we are. We are really trying to come unwrapped and show folks a new look. So I used to wear hats a long time ago, and then I was like, now I have some hair though.
Well,
So
they look amazing on you.
thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And today is just it feels like Monday.
Mhm.
It feels like a Monday. It feels heavy. And at the same time, today is a really good reminder about why we do this work.
Mhm.
And Kelly and I want to acknowledge that today is the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and acknowledge this moment in this day and give reverence to the work he and others spearheaded that led to sort of the greatest, one of the greatest civil rights movements of our modern era. And I think we're about to be on the cusp of the next civil rights movement as things are being rolled back, as people are questioning who has the right for liberty and freedom and for basic needs. And we can see that, there, as Malcolm Gladwell said, there comes a tipping point and we are very close to it. So today, for those of you who don't know, today is the actual birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King, and we want to acknowledge that and acknowledge that for both us as a Black woman and as a white woman, what he led to our privilege and rights, led
Yeah,
to what we for a long time enjoyed and continue to fight for, because not all of us are free.
exactly. And I think what it made me pause to think about today with all we're witnessing in our country today and around the world is um part of his teachings that I think sometimes it's my community that gets wrong,
Mhm.
and that he advocated peace, but he also talked about how sometimes peace is not enough. And I
Correct.
and I think that's part of what we're seeing right now, in Minneapolis, in Chicago,
Mhm.
I've heard some things from Georgia, where you
Yes.
are
Yes.
today. So, and then the other thing I was reflecting on today as part of his teachings is, and I'm gonna paraphrase this in a little different way than he said it, because I'm not gonna make it quite as political as he did. Nothing wrong with that, but I wanna kind of make it more general, and that is, he also said to beware of the the citizen who says all the right things,
Mhm.
but doesn't take put action behind it.
Yeah.
So in his words, he referred to it as the moderate. You know, the one that said, "Well, let's stay peaceful, let's stay," um, because, in this time that we're in right now, um, we are at risk of losing everything. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think we're at a tipping point, um, and I think that, and I pray for all of us, and I pray for our country. But I think that there's a lot of things we can take away that we don't usually take away from this moment in history.
Yeah, and I also I think that that leads to another person we want to acknowledge. So while today is the uh, day we celebrate the birth of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., we also want to lift up um, and give a moment to Claudette Colvin. Colvin, excuse me. And Claudette Colvin passed away 2 days ago. That's one. I have no idea what that was, but that's funny.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, you know what? That they're trying to
To tell us.
they're trying to yeah. This Claudette passed away 2 days ago, and people don't really know her story. And I think that is why it's so important that you and I continue to push for our stories to be told.
Mm.
For those of you who do not know who she was the first woman in Birmingham, Alabama. Excuse me. Yeah. In Montgomery, Alabama, who did not give up her seat for a white woman. This was 9 months prior to Rosa Parks. And she was 15 years old
Mm.
when this happened. And she was arrested and found guilty of violating segregation. How about that? So many people don't know that story about her. And for many years, what was lifted was the story of Rosa Parks, understandably so, because that led to the Montgomery bus boycott. But what set in motion was what happened 9 months prior,
Yep.
and that is Claudette Colvin. And so, Claudette, we thank you for being brave in the face of enormous um, risk to your life, to your liberty, and we honor you for setting in motion what allowed someone like me to do and be today. And these are the stories we want to make sure don't go unnoticed or untold. So this is a great jumping off point to
Mm.
what we do at least Lucy Leadership Project. The other piece is we try to make sure we go back to the origin. And Lucy is an origin story within herself. Just as Claudette is sort of the origin story of the civil rights movement, a 15-year-old girl set in motion what has transpired into all of the civil rights acts. And so just making sure we honor the origin of where we've come from.
Yeah, and those stories are so incredibly important for two reasons. One, they're important for us personally, for us to know and understand why we show up the way we do, why
Mhm.
why we prioritize things the way we do, why we either triumph or struggle in certain areas the way we
Mhm.
do. It's really important for us to us. I'm talking about, and when I say us at Lucy Leadership Project, I think folks know that we really focus on women's leadership, because and our stories are so important for women leaders because we are socialized from the day we are born, from
Mm.
the day we are born, and they wrap us in pink, and they they put I was gonna big ass bows, big bows in our hair,
Big ass bows. It's
big
fine.
ass bows in our hair, and I mean, it's the messages that we're receiving that we're taking in, um, and so as we go through our own journey, life journey and leadership journey, and we wonder why we aren't showing up in certain ways, why things are happening in certain
Mhm.
ways, to explore how we've been socialized and taught, what are those messages that were sent to us as to how we're to show up. You and I did that, for 2 years.
Right.
We wrote the book. Um, then the other reason why it's important for the origin story is because as we share those with one another, just like we just talked about a story of a woman who wouldn't give up her seat on the bus,
Mm.
what idea it could put in someone else's mind.
Right.
What might be insignificant to you might be something that someone says, "Oh, Yeah, me too. But I need to explore that too. And that's one of the reasons why we do this in community, because you don't have to do it by yourself and because we learn from each other. So there's two reasons why origin story for women is so incredibly important. One is for ourselves to know what we need to hold on to and what we need to lay down. And then also because our community learns from each other and we are often better off and we learn lessons from each other and we get ideas from each other.
Yeah. Well, and also it attends to safety.
Correct.
It creates an opportunity for us to reduce the isolation and to create a safer community when we are not doing this alone. And I want to go back a second to origin, and it just hit me even as I was just talking, and I was talking about Claudette Colvin sort of being an origin to the civil rights movement, even though many people didn't know. I mean, as a young girl growing up in Harlem and reading about the civil rights movement, I did not know about Claudette. I knew about Rosa Parks.
Mm-hmm.
So, it wasn't until I was much older that I was like, there was someone before Rosa Parks, this a woman named Claudette Colvin, and she was 15 years old, right? She's a little known person in my education, and come to find out, it wasn't just me who many didn't know. So I did not have the ability to pass that on to my own children until I was much older. But I'm thinking about Lucy Leadership Project and how we were mulling over, trying to figure out how to define the work that we were going to do and all the different iterations of names and words and things we came up with. And we went to an origin story. We went to an origin, right? Whether, and this has nothing to do with faith or anything like that, but anthropologically, the known human remains, being a woman and being Lucy, I think it has a lot to do with the way that we shaped our book and started with our origin stories, which is why the Unwrapped framework begins with the origin story. You have to go back and examine, interrogate why you are who you are in order to learn about not only how you move and why you move, but whether you want to make a different choice about how you want to move forward in your future. And for women, we have ideas of maybe about how we move, but we don't even know why those things were taught to us that do that. And let me just say, it's a good exercise for men to do as well. I think for anyone to do the origin stories. We, however, know that we have a mission at Lucy Leadership Project. And why our mission is to not only help women get into those leadership positions, but once they're there, they're thriving. But that means examining. So we start with you. The you understand, and the you, your personal history. And every time I talk about it and every time I share that with someone, the eyes of the women like light up, because there's something so powerful about stories. And for our women of color, our indigenous women, the stories have been written about us, those scripts written about us that get passed on and become mainstream stories of what we have to combat every day. We have to combat every day the images that people see of us, the words they use to describe us. And when we break from what they consider the norm, we are an exception. We're not the norm. And so how can we as a community continue to push back against those stereotypes and those those stories. And part of it is taking control,
Mhm.
regaining control of your narrative. And that's what we hope, that's what our intention is that not only you know your narrative, know your story, but you control it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it starts with reflection and it starts with just becoming aware,
Mhm.
just that awareness of, oh, I do that thing for this reason.
Yeah.
And so it's that first part of just really figuring out where were those crossroads in my life. When I
Mhm.
was growing up, what were the messages that were being sent to me, when I was young? And then what role did I play in my family? What role did I play if you have siblings, with my siblings, with my extended family? And then what did that look like when I went to school? And then what did that look like and how did that impact the choices I made? And then when I went to college, if you went to college or wherever you went post secondary ed, what and then when you went to your first job, and then if you had crossroads there, what did that look like? What choices did you make? Why did you make those choices? It's really about just starting to reflect at all of those kind of moments
Mhm.
and decisions you made and why you made them. I thought, Kendra, because we're talking about story tonight, and I thought maybe, for those who haven't had a chance to read Unwrapped, but we do encourage you to
That's why I was pulling my book out right now.
get the book and read Unwrapped. Um, Maybe we could talk a little bit about, because we spent 2 years writing that book, and in that 2 years, you and I both talk about how kind of it was a form of therapy in many
Yes.
ways.
Yep.
Um, just the simple fact that I would send you that first chapter and you'd say, "No, I need to know more about this. You need to take it.
Mhm.
There's more detail I know here. You're intriguing me with this, but I want you to dig a little deeper." So maybe if we just take a few minutes to just talk about our story. What did we learn going through that process ourselves?
Mm.
And what was our story? So when you were writing your origin story, what were some of the things that the ahas you had, the
Mm.
revelations you had? What is your origin story?
So the one thing was, so there were two things that well, there was one thing that I knew, and the other was an aha. The one thing that I knew, I was really confident and comfortable with what I knew. That being that I was always surrounded by women who took care of business. I was my grandmother, my great grandmother, my great great grandmother on both sides. So I knew them all. And were they fierce? I mean, just so they, as a little girl, to me, they were fearless. What I
Mm,
saw was fearlessness in them. I saw authority in them. I saw women who made decisions, who in my mind were very, very strong. The aha was much later. Like as a kid, I looked up to them and I was scared of them. Right. I was just like, these women mean business. Don't mess with Babs. That was my grandmother. She was Barbara. Don't mess with Babs. They're like, she just had these piercing eyes. My great grandmother was tall in stature and just, she took space in the room. My great great grandmother was very tall, and she was mama, right? It was mama and papa. So that my idea of them, it wasn't until much later that I started to learn how I didn't realize how much they were holding. I didn't
mm,
know how much that those women were carrying, that my grandmother, I got some new information over the past 2 weeks. My grandmother was a beautiful singer. She sang all the time when I was a little girl, but she wanted to sing. In fact, she auditioned on the Apollo.
Mm.
When they had amateur night, she was on the Apollo. That's what she loves to do. It never transpired for her. She was a lunch lady in a public school.
Mm.
So she actually, this is when they actually cook food in school.
Yeah.
She cooked food for kids in a public school. My grandmother did graduate from high school, but she cooked food and she worked in the cleaners. And what I found out, is, some people know this, but for my wedding, I wore my grandmother's wedding dress.
Mm.
She always kept it in a brown, I mean, in a black plastic bag growing up. And she occasionally will take it out of the black plastic bag, like a garbage bag. And she would like, Kendra, try it on. You're gonna wear this. She really wanted me to be the girly girl. You're gonna wear this when you get married. She always, so I kept it. When she died, I took it. And found out that my grandmother was friends with the then, boxing legend Sugar Ray Robinson. And Sugar Ray Robinson bought my grandmother's wedding dress.
Wow.
Um, all that to say is she had all of these things that she did, but she never got to do the things she loved to do. And so what I started to remember, which is what I thought, I paid no attention to it, was those moments of sadness in her, were those moments where she just wanted to escape. And she died so young. My grandmother was 59 years old when she died.
Mm.
And while she fulfilled her dreams through her children, she didn't fulfill what she wanted to do. So I look back and I go, wow, like what they carried and what they kept to themselves. How does that translate? I took on just like they did. I followed the right. I'm going to take on your issues. I'm going to carry the weight. My mother does that. My mother did that, right? That's what I was taught, which led to me being a hustler. The last part of it that was a huge aha was because later in life I was like, man, they struggled. They did everything, to get me here. I can't let them down. Therefore, I have to do all I can to help the family. It's just this thing in the back of my head. I got to do all I can to not be a stain or to uplift. Like, how dare I not live up to the expectation because all of what they did for me. Nothing wrong with that, but that's an enormous amount of pressure I put on myself. And then I navigated it by, okay, I'm going to try to go to these schools and have these types of jobs or be around these types of people. And I guess the hardest part that I had to wrestle with was my proximity to whiteness in order to make sure that I was accepted, right? It's kind of like this respectability politics that you can play. And the trickery I did to myself to get there. Now, we can break that down, and people who are, therapists can be like, okay,
Oh yeah, the psychologists are out there right now going, writing it down.
Well, I mean, they can explain that away. I mean, as a Black woman, like it's about safety. It's about, trying to preserve
Right.
myself in certain situations. I get it, right? But you don't know until you examine it. You don't know why you are doing what you're doing until you interrogate those aspects of your life. So I reread a portion of the origin story, and then I reread, because we were talking with some women from Massachusetts, the In Search of the Truth, and it brought all of that emotion back, and the idea of not the idea, how I moved and how I move now. Now that I see it, and I know the patterns, I can do something with it. I have a choice.
Yeah.
Right? I can continue to fool myself, or I can do something different that makes me feel more like me and live my life for me, and not necessarily for someone's expectations or design around who I'm supposed to be.
Well, and you go back to that hustler.
Yeah. Oh,
That
yeah.
you can live authentically instead of gaming the system and figuring out how to, when you talk about that proximity to whiteness, that's your hustler in there about, all right, these are the rules. I'm going to figure out how do I put all my chess pieces where I need to put them, because I'm going to win this game.
Yeah, and I think there's a difference between the strategizing and hustling. So I just want people to know that in my head, I'm not strategizing. I'm really hustling. And part of that hustle embedded in that is code switching. And I understand why we do it.
Correct.
And quite frankly, I ain't code switching no more. It's just like how tiring it is to have to be something, be someone for someone else so that they can feel safe around you.
Yeah.
Like,
well, not even just safe, feel comfortable.
No.
Because that's part of the rules that you had to hustle around.
Yeah.
Is, I mean, well, we'll just call it out. White supremacy culture is about comfort, but whose comfort? It's my comfort. And so I need to come into a meeting where you're going to be, and I need to feel comfortable, and I need to with the language that's spoken, with who's there, with the way people look, and so yeah, exhausting. And for the women who may or may not know that term, and I think most of them do, that code switching term. And I've heard white women say, well, I walk into a room too, and if there's men there, okay, but that is at one level.
Yeah. I mean, that's different.
That's not in every single room we walk into. And that's not over and over and over again. Right, Dr. Rowe, those days over and over and over again. And I may not do that. And it'll be okay. I'll still be safe if I don't do that. So yeah, I mean, that word hustler is what you use all the time to explain what you learned in writing your origin story.
Yeah, and one other thing I'll just say as I close this part and you share yours, Kelly, is let me just unpack this for a second. This code switching, and to Dr. Rowe's point, like Kim and Dr. Rowe, like exhausting, and those days are over. Those days are over for you, Dr. Rowe. Those days are over for me. But for some people, their journey is their journey. And each of us has to make a decision about how we do that. Like, I don't want to say, girl, just go out there and just tell them, right? I don't know everyone's context and everyone's situation. Here's what I do know is once I broke through and was on the other side of that, I was like, I ain't going back there. Like, dang, I wish I could have done that earlier, right? Because of such fear that was holding me back from saying to a room of white people, or just showing up and just like, you gonna get this, and yeah, I'm a split an infinitive here or there,
Yeah.
Might not have a subject verb agree. Like, I mean, I taught English. I know, but when I'm just having this conversation, I have a point to make. I shouldn't have to. Well, I don't do this anymore, but I used to be very careful about what I was going to say so I can sound intelligent and I can be one of those intelligent Negroes. It's kind of like the movie Spike Lee's movie Do the Right Thing.
Yeah.
That scene in the pizza shop and was like Michael Jordan, he's like a different kind of black. Like
You wanted
I I would want to be a different kind of black, right? Now that I'm on the other side and I am really, really solid in who I am, you go ahead and think what you think. I know I'm smarter than you. I know I have value. I know I have worth. And see, standing in that power when people start to push back, that's when I know they scared of me. And I was just like, damn, I wish I had this evolution. I think there was parts of me, parts of my journey where I was that way. I wish it was more consistent and sooner is what I say to myself. And I'm like, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll never go back to that girl who is tentative in white spaces and tentative even in black spaces where they might be expecting me to look sound. I mean, I go in some, I'm just like, and I can see it in some sisters. I see it in them and going, oh girl, you there. Like, I wish you can cross over because it is okay on this side.
Yeah.
But everyone's journey is different, everyone's context is different. But I refuse to be exhausted in that space again.
Well, and it started with you examining your origin story
Correct. So
and
what's yours? Let's get to you.
how you were socialized, and then being able to name it, and
Yep.
then having something. What is it then that I'm going to do instead?
Yeah.
Have a
Yeah.
plan. So for me, I always knew that the easiest the easiest way to say this is I always knew that I was well liked.
You
I
do.
always knew my friends liked me, my bosses always liked me. I always knew that I could be relied upon, I
Mhm.
could be given responsibility, and part of that was my hustle because that's where I got some worthiness,
Mhm.
is, "Yeah, give me that to do, I will do it. Yeah,
Yep.
rely on me." I didn't rock the boat, you know,
Mhm.
put Kelly on that committee and team because, she'll help,
Get it done and get people. Yep.
smooth the waters. She won't complain. Everybody's complaining. She won't complain. She'll take it. Everything will be okay.
Mm,
And
mm,
I
mm,
used to think that was, my value,
mm.
almost like my currency.
Yep.
And then when we started writing about kind of our life experiences and those crossroad moments, I realized that from a very early age, and I'm saying like 7, 8, 9 years old, I had this uncomfortableness
Mm.
with, um, uneasiness, with things that were not peaceful, with, um, with anything that felt on edge in any way. And I remember, and I don't know if I wrote about this, but I remember this moment when my grandfather died, and I loved my grandfather. And when he died and we went to his funeral, I remember being at the service, and I remember fighting the tears so hard because I didn't wanna even showing emotion was uncomfortable. I
Hmm.
didn't wanna show that, and I remember sitting in that pew and just, like, breathing and going, "Don't cry, don't cry, don't cry." They would tell these amazing stories about him, and he built this, work shed out back, and he purposely built it out of all these multicolored tiles, and how that was also where he would fish after he'd go fishing, and he would, gut the fish and I could see that in him, and And I just remember fighting that because I didn't like that feeling,
Mm.
not feeling calm. And growing up, I took on a role of making sure that calmness stayed within the household. Now, as the middle
Mm.
child, and psychologists out there that do the whole thing on birth order, I know that sometimes means something.
Right.
But I was the middle child, and I did not. And let me say this clearly: I did not grow up in a volatile household.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing that was going to majorly happen if dad didn't have a birthday present for mom when it was her birthday, or dad forgot about an anniversary, or there wasn't a Christmas. There wasn't anything majorly abusive or explosive that would happen. It's just that the atmosphere and the vibe would be uncomfortable,
Mm.
peaceful. So at a very early age, like I'm talking like 8, 9, 10 years old, I would remind dad, hey, mom has a birthday coming up. And he would give me, at the time, $20 to walk down to the local mall, what was a mall kind of area, get her something, wrap it all up, and have it ready for him. Or I would actually, at the age of 10 or 11 or 12, make dinner reservations. You
Mm.
got dinner reservations. And he was very appreciative, and he was, but I knew that that was taking care of. Mom always worked, and she would leave a list of chores for us
Mm.
to do when we got home from school. And one of my jobs was to get dinner started so that she could finish it when she got home instead of getting started. And I made sure, I was on my brother and sister saying, we've got to get these chores done. And they knew
Mm.
how important it was for me. Mom would get home at 5, they would start chores at 4:45.
Well, I have somebody who does that right now.
Just because they're siblings, and that's what we do to each other, right? And I know now they probably figured, hey, if we just put it off long enough, she'll do them all,
Oh,
because she'll make sure. So when
and
I
you didn't complain.
no, and so when I realized that I was really conditioned to be the peacekeeper for many reasons,
Mhm.
I took that into school, I took that into college, I took that into the workplace. What I still sometimes, I don't wrestle with it as much, but kind of the contrary part of this is, I was a teachers union leader.
Mhm.
I worked with civil rights, our social justice issues, starting in college, and we're actually starting in high school. And so I wasn't afraid of that confrontation because I think that was part of my value system, right?
Yeah.
So I could go to marches, I could do those things and feel comfortable. But it wasn't until I realized my my need for peace, my need was also manifested by not speaking up for myself,
Mm.
or allowing people push push me aside, to convince me I don't want to be on the stage. I don't. And when I realized that, and then when at a time in my work career, I needed to ruffle feathers
Mhm.
sake of clients, for the sake of the work, and I got such pushback. That's when my eyes opened and said, "Oh, okay, so when Kelly is not the peacekeeper, I don't have it to other people, I don't have as much value. That's not gonna
Yeah.
happen anymore. So I'm going to." So now I then was able to name that, and now I live by tell the truth in every room I'm in, no
Mhm.
matter what room I'm in. Um, I have to give people honest feedback. I can do it in a way that's loving and caring and kind,
Sure.
and
Sure, sure.
sometimes I don't.
Yep.
No, sometimes they don't
There's
just
a difference between calling in and calling out. Thank
hello.
you. Better
Sometimes
roll.
they don't get that from
Yeah.
me. But I now have, and I have the skill sets to do it. And I have that now. It's as I was in a recent conversation with someone recently, and I was talking to them, Kendra, about how we talk about co-conspirators and disruption.
Mhm.
And this was a white woman, and she said to me, um, you know, I'm not sure I like those words. And I said, "Well, why not?" "Well, maybe we can call it something that's just not so," I said, "disruptive, not so conspiratorial." I mean, that is what, and I, in the past, I would have gone, "Yeah, maybe we need to change those words." I would have come back and get, "Kendra, maybe we need to, because we don't wanna make anybody feel uncomfortable." No, when we say disrupt, we mean disrupt.
Mhm,
We're
mhm.
trying to lean into a patriarchal system that doesn't was never built for us as women. We need to disrupt it. There's
Mm,
no sugarcoating that. There's no show uh, in this moment in our country, we can no longer be allies. We can
yeah,
no longer be accomplices. We have to be co-conspirators. And what does that mean? That means you have to ask yourself every day, what am I willing to risk in this moment? And so that is my origin story. And it's a I think it's a
Mhm.
lifelong
Yeah.
work in progress, because I still have those moments when I go, "Damn, I wish I had that moment over again because I didn't say anything at a moment I wish I would have said something."
Mhm.
And I still have those from time to time, but nowhere near the way I used to.
Well, I just think it's fascinating that it was almost like as I read your story, and even as you're speaking now, it's like this dual Kelly, right? This fierce Kelly who is fighting for everyone else and then didn't fight for yourself initially, right? You saw the inequities. I mean, your values is what got you to become the president of a teachers union. Your values got you to what you're doing now, like the work that you're doing in politics right now, and the advocacy work and your disruption, and you do it on behalf of others. And then there's this other Kelly that was just like, but not me, but not me. So I think it's interesting how you weren't able to see that early on, and then it takes something to jolt us
It does.
out of it, to tell it, to get us to go, F that.
Yep.
I ain't doing it no more. Right. Like there's that moment or that epiphany, and everyone has that. Um, so it is this is what we want
Mhm.
you all who are tuning in. This is what we want you to experience in our Unwrapped series. The other thing you said, Kelly, too, that came to my mind as you were talking about your origin and your naming of the peacekeeper, and that it's a work in progress. I mean, there is there's grace you have to give yourself in these moments, and the understand your story segment of the series could be difficult
Mhm.
because you're going to relive or recall those moments, um and I'm hoping it is a jolt moment for you, for each of you. So Bertine says, co-conspirators, truth teller, disruption. Yes.
Yes.
Dr. Rose says, love your transparency, Kelly.
I love you, Dr. Rowe.
Yeah, and Tanya
Yeah.
says, I can completely relate, Kelly.
Yeah.
So, um, these moments that we're having, these moments of clarity, allow us to show up. That's why we call it unwrapped.
Yeah. Yeah, and let me add one thing to what you just said. Um, and when you and I hope those of you who are listening, who haven't already chosen to go through this process with us on January 31st, choose to go through this process, but also bring along another sister with you to go through
Yes.
it together, so you have a partner to go through it. And as you go through that, I know I did, is I had those moments of, "Oh, I wish I woulda, I shoulda, I woulda." And I have a virtual coach, for fitness. And she always says, quit shoulding your life away. I mean, the first time she said, I went, what'd she say? But she's like, stop shouldn't. Quit shoulding your life away. I shoulda. Just stop shouldn't. We should have done a lot of things, but it is what it is. And when it reveals itself to you, then you can choose to move forward the way you want to move forward. If it's differently, or hold on to those things that are revealing yourself, that are beautiful about yourself and serving you. So you go through, those of you who will go through this process will go through a I shoulda part too. And you will do that. You can do that, but then you got to move on.
Well, I'm going to lift up what Dr. Rowe said here. But if it weren't different for you in the past, you would not be who you are today.
Correct. Love that.
So, we don't want to poo-poo our past, right? What Dr. Rowe, I believe you're saying, which I think we concur, all of that is why you are.
Yes.
Is why you are. So, and Kendra says, that's good, Kelly. Moving forward is really important, especially now when things want to be rolled back, Kendra.
Yeah,
things want to be rolled back. It's like, how do we hold? The one thing I know I can control is me. I can control how I show up. I can control what I say. I can control what I do. And so I can't control what anybody else does. But what I'm hoping, no, not what I hope, because that's not what I hope. My presence, I want it to exude the energy that makes people pause and respond to me in a way that's human, and they may not agree, but they're more curious. They're more curious. And so that leads us to sharing this with you all. And that is just a quick review of what the Unwrap framework and the series is. This sounds a little pitchy. I'll just say it, but this is how Kelly and I think we finally got it. Like, this is the journey we took to write the book Unwrapped. And we want to accelerate that journey for you all. And understand your story is the first. So you can see that each month it builds on the other. Yes, sure, you can come in with work with your strengths, and you can come in with align with your purpose. That's fine, but you're missing some parts. So two things I want to amplify, Kelly, and then I'll turn it to you for some additional context around this framework. The first is, Kelly said, it's important that you do this with someone else. We want you to do this with someone else because we had the experience of doing this together. It really helped me to share what I shared about my proximity to whiteness, the hustling mentality, my upbringing as a young Black girl, to you, Kelly, as a white woman. And for you to listen to that, not to question it, to listen to it, to read it, to have a better understanding of how I move so we can move together. So, and to do that, I think is why people call us a unicorn, right? Like, y'all too, or as Dr. Rowe calls us, salt and pepper.
Yeah.
Let me just say it. Y'all too. This work is how we are disrupting the dominant white ideology. We are demonstrating and modeling what it looks like for two women who grew up differently, who have different expectations laid on them, push it back. At the same time, we're doing our own work. So that is why it's important. We think that you do this with someone so you can have a person that you can process this with. And the second thing that you said, which I want to uplift, or well, uplift that. The second thing is this is how you unwrap. This is how you learn to go from here is my origin to the last part, prioritize what's strong. And so there's that QR code there. I'm going to post in the chat a link. Now, these workshops are $179 right now for each session, which y'all, $179. That's a hairdo. I mean, right? That's hair and nails.
That's what?
Cheaper than hair.
That's 14 Starbucks.
That's hair done and some nails.
Yeah.
And you get that's $179 each. However, if you all know if you want to send us an email, we have a discount for you. You know, a sister girl discount, but you have to email us.
LucyLeadershipProject@gmail.
Yep. And if you are interested in taking the whole thing, it's $800 if you take the whole thing. And so you have some savings. Now, some are going to utilize, and those of you who are, work, they have professional learning cost. You ask your supervisor, ask your professional learning person, like it's $800, right?
Yeah. And we can write for you. If you need documentation, we can write something. We can create a certificate, whatever you need.
Or if you're doing it for your own personal growth and you're using your own funds, not someone else's funds, it is tax deductible as part of professional learning. So I just want you to keep that in mind. I don't want that to deter you. So far, we are almost close. We're getting close to meeting our limit of the number of women we want in the.
Yeah, we cap it.
We don't want 1,000 women going through this. We
at
really
one time. We do, but not at one time.
Yeah, we do. It is. I'm excited. I see Mama Kay says she's excited about the upcoming workshops. It's just it is. It is a journey that we're going to go through again. I mean, we're going to basically unwrap ourselves again, Kelly, because we're in a different stage in our lives. So as you're going through this unwrapping experience, Kelly and I are going to go through unwrapping 2.0. And where do we land there? So would you like to share a little bit more about?
Yeah. And let me just add two more things. And I say this all the time. When you said, us being Dr. Rowe, salt and pepper, we're not saying that if you're a Black woman, you got to go find a white woman. If you're a white woman, we're not saying that. In fact, we're saying don't do that unless you have somebody in your life already that you are brave and safe around. But just bring someone along with you, because we will have you for 3 hours. But your mind and your brain and your processing will continue after that. And if you have someone that you can meet once a week, go through the book together, go on your own journeys together until the next time we meet, that will be so beneficial for you. Also, I would say if you have a group of women, Kendra has a group of women that she calls her Sister Saturday group. And there's some of the women from there that are coming. If you have your own group of women and you want to come together as a group, and I would say if you have 4 or 5 or more than that, email us first, because then we can figure out, can we give you some kind of a group rate? If you have a team at work, and they're all women, and you say, I was at a luncheon, I belong to a women's group here where I live, and I was at a luncheon the other day, and one of the women that I was having lunch with said, we are a complete group of women. I'm going to go back and talk to my boss. We should do this together. So if you want to do something like this together with your team from work, email us first, so that we can put something together for you. We can talk to you about maybe a package to go through it together. Together it would be 6 months. So for You know, if you pay $800 for yourself, you get 6 months of unwrapping and learning. So each one builds on the next. So don't think of them as 6 separate workshops. There's almost like a precursor that occurs in the one before it that you will carry into all the rest of them. So we'll start with the origin story that we've been talking about tonight. Once you name that thing, Kendra named her thing as being the hustler. I named my thing as being the peacekeeper. Then we're going to talk about, what does that look like? What are the challenges? What do you need? Do you need new words? Do you need an I'm going to say accountability partner? Kendra calls them able partner, someone that can help you move forward. What is it that you need, and what kind of plan do you put together? Work with your strengths. We throw around the word authenticity so much. You know, what does that mean? And I think part of that starts with your origin story, right? So to show up more authentically, but also, how do you naturally think, feel, and behave so that you can show up in all your natural strengths, and you can move from a position of power around your strengths instead of always looking. I mean, we constantly get these messages of, in order to grow, you have to figure out what's been left out and fill
And
in,
fill it up. Yep.
instead of figure out what's already been put in and how do you maximize that.
Mhm.
And there'll be some specifics. Those of you who know StrengthsFinder and know that assessment, so it won't be just something that is not very concrete. It will be very specific to you, but also to the group. Reframing the narrative. At this point, we're going to start bringing in some of those other skill sets like boundary setting. Boundary setting is one of our number one workshops alone that
Yeah.
groups ask us to do, because it's one of the hardest things. It's one of the things we are not conditioned to do, because us setting boundaries does not serve everybody else around us. So it's one of the hardest things to do. And it's about reframing it and thinking about it differently,
Mhm.
giving it a definition, rather than just boundaries mean cutting people off. No, it doesn't. Boundaries mean something different, and we'll help you reframe that. Align to your purpose. What is
Mm.
it you love to do? You know, this is where we start bringing in the element of well-being and how important well-being is. And we like to use, I tend to be the data-driven one between the two of us. And and Kendra in her work has to use research-based practices. And so we tend to lean into those two. I mean, after all, we are career educators.
Yep.
So we use Gallup's research around well-being, and we call it Align to Your Purpose, because purpose is one of the 5 elements of well-being, and it is and tends to be kind of the umbrella element
Mhm.
that can impact all the other elements of well-being. And in your leadership practice, you need to have a well-being practice,
Yep.
not wellness. That's different, but well-being. And then the last one is prioritizing what is strong. That's taking everything we've been talking about, your origin story, the naming that thing, your strengths, reframing the narrative around, what do I need in order to live the kind of life I want to live, and show up the way I want to show up. And then, what is my purpose? What is that thing that I get a kick out of doing every single day? And I am joyful about it most of the time.
Yep.
And how do you pull all that together to really create not just the kind of life that you want, but how you want to show up? And most importantly, and this is what drives our work, thrive in
Mhm.
whatever it is that you want to pursue. Because it's one thing where women get to a certain level, if that's what you're after. It's another thing for us to get there and thrive. And so, how do you prioritize what is strong and center those things that really empower you?
Yeah, that's fantastic. And again, I put in the chat for those of you who are on LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook, there's the link, but you can get to it on our website. And so, what I want to do really quickly before we close out is I'm going to say share my screen, which I'm about to do, which is kind of scary. I don't know if I can do it. Oh, maybe I can do it. Nope, that is not it. That is not it.
Take your
That is
time.
not it.
Take your
I'm
time.
getting, I know. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Okay, this one. Can you see? Okay, so now you can see. So this is our website, the home page right there,
Aren't
right?
we
That's the
cute? Look
website.
how cute
Yeah.
we are.
Well, actually, someone said we all look fabulous, so we are
Oh,
cute. But the Unwrap Framework series is right on this page up here. So you can follow along. You can look at a video of us, like why we talk about Unwrapped. And here's where you can reserve your seat for the Understand Your Story, so you can get a taste, so you know what's going to happen next. And then here is whether you want the one session or all six right here. And the calendar with all the dates
and
are
they're
here.
always on a Saturday, so you don't have to worry about work. You don't have to worry about any of that. We do it in the morning, 9 to 12. We don't
Mhm.
care if you show up in your pajamas.
We
Bring
don't
your
care.
favorite beverage, whatever it is that you need to make yourself comfortable. If you're going through a certain time in life, bring your fan, whatever it is that you need.
Girl, yes,
Sorry,
all that.
I'm reaching out. I got you. I got you covered. So
And
bring whatever you need to bring.
and here's the thing, just a couple of things that people are just saying, just to lift up those who are. Thank you for putting things in the comments, right? This is a blueprint for unwrapping. And thank you, Bertine, for saying it's a master class in how self-awareness and allyship can become transformation. It is, Dr. Rose says, it is an investment in yourself and you're more than worth it. What's the next one? Sorry. Bertine says unwrapping equals renewed self-discovery, growth, and evolution. Kina says she is looking forward to seeing herself grow through this process. Um, and I think there's one more. And Keitra says, exactly, it's what you both teach. We have our own story, which means we have to know our story. So that's the first step becomes clear. So, I appreciate you all who have shown up to listen in, to watch. Dr. Rose said, who's joining me? I got my ticket.
Go, Dr. Rowe.
You go, Dr. Rowe. That's right. And here's the thing, like Dr. Rowe is in Dallas. We have a sister joining us from Chicago. We have sisters joining us from Virginia. We have sisters who are joining us from Maryland, of course, Georgia. And so, in Connecticut, we have a sister joining us from Connecticut. So it's going to be so much fun to be in a Zoom, because this is virtual, in a Zoom with women across at least the eastern part and parts of the Southwest, in the Zoom. And I think the other thing is going to be illuminating is that no matter where we are, we have some shared stories.
Oh, yeah.
We have some, whether we're white women or Black women, we have some shared stories. And then the last thing I'll say is we just don't know what we are carrying. We just don't know what we're carrying. Oh, wow. Look at that. Sonia says, I work most Saturdays, but she'll try to rearrange her clients for one weekend. She needs to do this.
Oh, yes, Tanya.
Thank you so much.
That's prioritizing yourself too.
Yeah. I mean, and again, come with your coffee. Maybe you want to put a little schnapps inside that coffee. I don't care. Right? What you got to do, the lemonade,
Your mug is we don't need it.
slippers, you
Yeah.
name it. In fact, I'm going to be in South Bend, Indiana when we do this. So I'll actually, there's another couple of folks from New York City who are joining. We're all over the place. So thank you, Tanya, for that. I appreciate it. Listen, send us a note by email. Our email address is lucyleadershipproject@gmail.com. Tell us that you're interested. Let's talk. If you're ready to do it now, do it now.
Yep.
We so appreciate you all joining us tonight. I mean, Kelly and I were just like, we're just going to talk.
Yeah.
And one more thing, let me just put this back. For those of you who missed it earlier, we dedicate this session, this conversation, to Claudette Colvin, the original, the origin of the Montgomery bus boycott. She died at the age of 86 on the 13th this week. She was 15 years old when she refused to give up her seat to a white woman in Alabama. And she did this 9 months before Rosa Parks.
Yeah.
And again, sometimes we don't know the stories that need to be told. And I just want to make sure we end with giving honor to a trailblazer who took a risk, who little people did not know about her, was arrested.
She
Also
disrupted.
Yeah, go ahead, Kelly.
She disrupted, and she was a co-conspirator. She was a conspirator.
Yeah, she was a conspirator, right? And most people don't know about her. So we give her honor and we thank her for the bravery and courage that it took for her to do what she did, for me to show up who I am today. So Claudette, thank you. And to our sisters out there, thank you so much for being on. We look forward to seeing you on January 31st. Be well and be unwrapped.